It was a cold morning. The sky was gray. People walked fast through the city park, holding their coffee, looking at their phones. No one noticed the old woman sitting on the far bench. Her name was Clara. She wore a long brown coat with holes in it. Her shoes were worn out. A small blanket was wrapped around her legs. Her hands shook as she held a paper cup of cheap coffee. But the thing she held most carefully was an old photo. The photo was torn and faded. It showed a young girl, smiling with curly hair. Clara looked at the photo like it was treasure. Her eyes were tired, but full of love. Suddenly, a loud voice broke the silence. "Hey, Grandma!" a man shouted. Two city police officers walked toward her. One was tall and broad, with dark sunglasses. His name tag said Officer Dale. The other was younger, chewing gum with a smirk. His name tag said Officer Rick. Clara looked up, calm. She said nothing. "What are you doing here, huh?" Dale said loudly. "This bench isn't for camping." Rick laughed. "Looks like she brought her whole house." Next to Clara was a small bag with some clothes, crackers, and her blanket. She moved the bag closer to her. Still, she said nothing. Dale kicked the bag lightly. "You can't stay here. No one wants to see this." Rick looked around. People were watching. Some were whispering. One young man took out his phone and started recording. "Let's clean up the park," Rick said, smiling. "We're heroes, right?" Then, Dale took his nightstick and poked Clara's coffee cup. It spilled on the ground. She looked at the spilled drink, then slowly reached down to pick up the cup. But Dale's foot came down hard. He stepped on the photo. That small, precious photo. It crumpled under his boot. Clara's hands froze. Her eyes didn't blink. Rick laughed. "Oops." She looked up at them. For the first time, she spoke. Her voice was soft but clear. "You'll regret that. I'm making one call." The two officers stared at her. Then they burst out laughing. "One call," Rick said, mocking. "To who? Jesus?" Clara didn't answer. She took out a small flip phone from her coat. Something old, something hidden. The officers paused. Dale frowned. "You're not allowed to use that. Give it here." Clara didn't move. She pressed one button. Dialing. Then she said 4 quiet words. "Activate Protocol 9. Confirm." And she closed the phone. The officers stared, confused. A few people nearby were watching closely now. One woman whispered, "Did you see that?" Rick shook his head. "Crazy old woman." But Dale looked nervous. He leaned closer. "What did you say? What protocol?" Clara smiled. "Just a little. You'll find out." Rick laughed again. "Let's just call the shelter van." But before they could say more, the young man with the phone spoke up. "I got all that," he said. "Every word, every move. You're done." He walked away quickly. The officers didn't chase him. For the first time, Dale looked unsure. Rick scratched his head. Clara stood up slowly. She picked up the photo, brushed off the dirt, and placed it back in her coat pocket. Then she walked away. She didn't run. She didn't look back. But something was different. The officers stood in silence. The wind picked up. A police radio crackled in Dale's pocket. Static, then silence. Rick tapped his shoulder mic. "Dispatch?" No answer. Clara turned the corner and disappeared into the crowd. Later that evening, in a dark room far from the park, a phone rang. A man in a black suit picked it up. "Yes," he said. A robotic voice answered. "Protocol 9 confirmed. Subject Clara Jones initiated call. Begin Level 2 review." The man paused, then replied, "Understood. Internal affairs will begin within 24 hours." Back in her small alley behind a bakery, Clara sat down on a crate. She pulled out the photo again. She looked at her daughter's smile. "I told you," she whispered. "They always think we're nothing. But now, they'll remember my name." She closed her eyes, and for the first time in weeks, she smiled. Clara woke up early in the cold alley. The city was still quiet, but she was wide awake. She wrapped her thin blanket tighter around her shoulders and thought about the day ahead. People saw her as just a homeless woman, but Clara was more than that. Much more. Years ago, Clara had a different life. She was a top intelligence analyst for a federal agency. She worked with secrets, big secrets that could change the world. Her job was to find danger and stop it before it came close. She was good at it. Very good. But life had a hard plan for her. Her husband, Mark, was in a terrible car accident. His injuries were bad. The hospital bills came fast. Their savings disappeared. Then, her daughter Lily got very sick. Clara spent every penny she had trying to save Lily. She worked overtime, took second jobs, but it wasn't enough. One day, Lily passed away. Clara's heart broke into pieces. She could not stay in her old life anymore. The agency told her to take a break, but she never came back. She left her home, her job, and everything she knew. She found herself on the streets, trying to forget the pain. But even on the streets, Clara never lost her mind or strength. She kept her phone hidden. It was old, but it worked. She still had contacts in the agency who believed in her. That was her secret weapon. Her past was a shield and a sword. Back in the present, Clara opened the phone. The screen was small, but it lit up. She dialed a number and waited. After a few rings, a calm voice answered. "Clara, it's been a while." "It has," she said quietly. "I need help." There was a pause. "Protocol 9. Understood. Internal review starts tomorrow." Clara nodded. "They will see." She ended the call. Clara knew this was only the beginning. The officers who humiliated her were not ready for what was coming. She stood up and looked at the city skyline. The sun was rising. A new day was starting. And so was her fight. The video of the officers shaming Clara was everywhere now. People watched it again and again on their phones. The officers laughed and hurt Clara, but no one liked it. Many people felt angry. The video showed the officers knocking over Clara's coffee and stepping on her photo. It made people sad and mad. Clara stayed quiet when the officers hurt her, but the video spoke louder than words. In a small room far away, Clara sat and watched the news. A reporter was telling her story. Clara Jones, a homeless woman, was humiliated by 2 city police officers in the park yesterday. The video has gone viral. Clara did not smile. She knew this was just the start. She picked up her phone again. She sent a secret message to her old friend at the agency. "Watch them closely," she wrote. Meanwhile, the 2 officers started to feel strange things. Their phones made strange noises. Their computer screens flashed. When they tried to open files, the files were missing. The officers grew worried. "Who is doing this?" Rick asked. Dale looked scared. They tried to act normal, but they knew something was wrong. They did not know Clara was watching them. And she had friends who wanted justice too. At the park, some people talked quietly. "Did you see the video? It's terrible what those officers did." One woman said, "I hope Clara gets help." But Clara did not want pity. She wanted the truth to come out. She was ready to fight. The city was watching. The police department was watching. And Clara was waiting. She smiled softly. The officers had no idea what was coming next. The next morning, the police station was busy. 2 officers, Dale and Rick, arrived late and nervous. They heard whispers from other officers. "Did you see the video?" someone asked. "It's going to cause trouble," another said. Dale and Rick sat at their desks. They tried to act calm, but inside, they felt fear. Their phones kept buzzing. Strange messages came in. Their boss called them into his office. "Dale, Rick," the boss said serious. "There are complaints about your behavior yesterday." The officers tried to explain, but the boss shook his head. "We are starting an internal investigation." Meanwhile, Clara was calm. She watched the news again. More videos were coming out. People talked about police cruelty and injustice. She knew her call had started something big. Her old agency friends were helping her. They shared secret information about the officers. The officers' records showed many complaints from before. Clara smiled. The truth was coming out. Back at the police station, Dale and Rick grew desperate. They deleted files from their computers. They erased messages. But the more they tried to hide, the more evidence appeared. Their body cameras had recorded private conversations. Some of those conversations showed the officers making cruel jokes. The investigation team collected everything. Dale and Rick were losing control. One day, Clara went to the park again. She sat on the same bench. People stopped and stared. She didn't care. She held her photo and whispered, "Justice is coming." The city was changing. More people came forward to speak about unfair treatment. They told their stories to reporters, friends, and strangers. Clara's story was not alone. Others shared their pain and fear. A small group of activists organized a peaceful protest near the city hall. They carried signs that said, "Respect for all," and "Justice for Clara." Clara watched from a distance. She felt hope. She saw people standing together. At the police station, the pressure grew. The chief of police called a meeting. "Dale and Rick's actions are unacceptable," he said. "We will take all steps to make sure this never happens again." Dale and Rick sat quietly, knowing their jobs were at risk. In the news, Clara's story became a symbol. Many talked about respect, kindness, and change. Clara listened to the news on a small radio. She smiled quietly. She knew the fight was far from over, but she was not alone anymore. Her voice, once silent, was now strong. One evening, Clara received a message. It was from her old agency friend. "Be ready. They want to meet." Clara took a deep breath. She knew this could be dangerous, but it could also be the key to justice. It was late at night when Clara got the message. The place was quiet and dark. She wrapped her old coat tightly and walked slowly. Her heart beat fast. She did not know what to expect. At the meeting spot, a small cafe on a quiet street, someone waited. A man in a black jacket stepped forward. "Clara?" he asked softly. She nodded. "I'm Agent Miller," he said. "I'm here to help." Clara's eyes searched his face. "Why now?" she asked. "The agency has been watching the officers," Miller said. "They know about their past mistakes. We want to make sure justice is done." Clara felt a mix of hope and fear. She had trusted people before, but this felt different. Agent Miller handed her a folder. Inside were documents, photos, and messages. Proof of the officers' wrong actions. Clara looked down at the folder. "This is what I need," she whispered. Miller smiled. "We will use this in the investigation. But you have to be careful. These officers have powerful friends." Clara nodded. "I understand." She knew this was a dangerous game, but she was ready. After the meeting, Clara walked back to her alley. She held the folder close. Her eyes looked at the stars. "Tomorrow," she said softly. "Tomorrow, everything changes." The day came. The city was watching. The police department held a press conference. Clara sat quietly in the front row. Her heart was pounding. She looked at the officers, Dale and Rick, sitting behind the table. They looked tired and worried. The chief of police stepped forward. After a full investigation, he said, "Officers Dale and Rick will be suspended. They will face charges for their actions." The crowd whispered. Reporters asked questions. Clara's eyes filled with tears. For the first time in a long time, she felt hope. Later, Clara walked through the park. The bench where it all began was empty. She sat down slowly. She pulled out the old photo of her daughter. A young girl's smile shined in the fading light. Clara whispered, "This is for you, Lily." News spread fast. The city promised to do better. New rules for police behavior were made. Clara was invited to speak at community meetings. Her voice was strong now. She was no longer invisible. At night, Clara looked out her small window. She thought about the journey, from the cold bench in the park to this new beginning. She smiled softly. Justice was served, and hope was alive.